Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 72 of Teaching Tales, the podcast totally devoted to sharing stories from the world of education. I am Brent Coley, your host and elementary principal in beautiful Southern California, and very, very, very excited to have as our guest today, Meredith Johnson. Meredith, how are you today?
I'm marvelous. I'm here from beautiful, beautiful paradise, Southwest Florida, all the way on the other coast.
On the other coast, yeah. So you and I can both, even though it's end of January when we're recording, we're probably like, what was your weather today, Meredith?
It was about 70, 75, sunny, beautiful day.
Okay, so in addition to you, our weather today was about 72. Yes, so everyone listening in the Midwest and the East Coast right now is hating us right now, but please don't click stop. Please keep listening, folks. So yes, we are spoiled in Southern California and South Florida, but Meredith, I'm super excited. Before I started recording, I'm excited for you to share some of your stories and for me to share the story of how you and I connected. But before we get into that, for anyone who is not yet familiar with you and your work, who is Meredith Johnson?
Okay, such a question. Thank you very much for asking, and I'm thrilled to be here. Meredith Johnson is a 40-year educator. I spent my time first as a classroom teacher in an elementary school, many years in special education classrooms, as a substitute teacher in a sixth grade classroom, and then as a middle school principal, an elementary principal where I wore many hats as grant writer, curriculum coordinator, technology coordinator, in charge of all the professional development. And I finally said, whoa, this is a lot. So I took a step back and moved all the way across the country to have a new adventure. I stayed there as an elementary principal for 8 years. Came back to Illinois as a principal when they did a nationwide search for a principal who could turn a school around. I had plenty of experience with that, and the teams that I worked with were tremendously successful in turning around schools. So I was in Illinois for 2 years, and then my husband said, let's go someplace warm. No socks. So we came to Florida, and I finished out here my career with 1 year working in a school in Southwest Florida. And it was a marvelous adventure. I don't know that I was completely ready to stop. And so once I retired and I wasn't walking the hallways of schools every day, I jumped into Twitter with both feet and started up a chat called Book Camp PD. And that's where I am now, staying busy each day with Book Camp PD.
Awesome. Well, as I'm listening to you, I'm sure that listeners right now are also saying, like, okay, so Meredith pretty much has done everything. I mean, like, that you have done a whole bunch. Definitely have the experience and the wisdom to share with me and with listeners. And it's that Book Camp PD. That's how you and I connected. We've never met. Again, that's the beauty of Twitter, isn't it? That
it is. That's very true.
We've never met in person. This is actually the first time we've ever spoken. We've messaged back and forth through Twitter, but we got connected through your Book Camp PD. Which can you tell folks, like, you've got a chat, but you also did the different, like, the book studies over the summer. Can you kind of let people know what Book Camp PD is all about?
Certainly. Book Camp PD is a hashtag. And the hashtag has a group of people who meet together on Sunday evenings for half an hour at 7:30 Eastern Time or 4:30 your time, Pacific. And during that, it rotates. We used to rotate the books that we would focus on every 2 weeks. And then I am a firm believer that whatever happens in the chat needs to come from a voice from all the educators that participate. Those educators, I would send them surveys, and they said they wanted to return to having the books highlighted once a month. So now we do a rotation of first book tasting, where we actually take a look at different aspects of whatever book the educators have voted that we focus on. Then after that, we have the front porch swing, where we talk all about what's going on in this book. What are the parts of this book that are really important and that speak to you? We follow that the third week with Shine the Spotlight, where educators come and they talk about what the concepts in the book, the principles, the ideas, the resources, what of all of those are they using in their classroom, in their school, in their district, and how is it going, and do they have any questions that they want to seek out from each other in order to help and grow? And then finally, at the end of the month, the fourth week, we have the guest author come. And the author then can answer their questions and really go in greater depth into the book. Also, during the month, 2 of those weeks, we have guest moderators, and that is educators who participate in the chat or really want to move into more of a leadership position on Twitter. Those guest moderators, they jump forward and they are the ones that guide the discussion. So it's not Meredith Johnson. I just try to facilitate the whole thing. Sure. I try to make sure we've got all those working pieces working and that the individuals' voices are heard in making sure that the chat goes forward in the direction they would like, even in the selection of the book. And if I could the selection of the book has really changed over time in that sometimes there are over 2,000, the last time we did it, over 2,000 votes that were cast for like 36 books that then decide which books are going to be the ones that are highlighted, our focus books. So the educators are actually picking those.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of how I discovered you, and Book Camp PD was my book, which was released about a year ago in early February of 2019, and that was one of the choices, and I was thrilled that it was selected to be one of the books that people could talk about and share their stories, and that's why I wanted to have you on as a guest, because the power of learning together through the power of books is like the title of this episode, because through what you're doing, through Book Camp PD, through that weekly, now monthly chat, people were able to find books that they wouldn't have necessarily been aware of, and talk. And as the author of one of those books, it's satisfying, because I wrote the book because I wanted to share it with people, and you helped get the word out for that. So I just want to thank you, first of all, personally, for what you do, because I personally have benefited. And when I say benefited, not getting rich off this book, but that's not why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because I have a passion for sharing, and I believe in the power of stories, and that's why I do this podcast. That's why I wrote the book. And what you do is able to share those stories with more people. So again, thank you for what you do.
Greatly appreciated. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, you got it. And I wanted you to share through Book Camp PD. You said that you have some stories in terms of, because I can personally speak, you were able to help share the message that I want to share with people. You were able to get that to more educators. How has what you're doing transformed the lives of some other educators that you have worked with? Can you share a story or 2 or 3 or however many?
I would love to. I want to start out with Kathleen Beachboard. She is someone who happened into the chat, and one of the things that the chat has is an extensive website, because I found that the half-hour weekly chat that we have, it needed to be expanded. People needed a place to go and check out the books and click on the links to order them if they wanted, or see the books like yours that were listed along with the others as choices, and be able to see resources about those books. And so, but another one of the things is a tab where if someone wants to be the guest moderator, they can sign up to be that. But Kathleen Beachboard signed up on a different tab spot in order to share her blog that she started. Kathleen hadn't written one before, and this is what she told me about a year and a half after sharing that blog. She said, I just want you to know I'm dedicating my upcoming book to you. We are now in production to print. If it had not been for you and allowing me to guest blog, I would not have had the courage. You didn't know you made such a difference, but you did. Thank you, Meredith. And that
Oh my
just
goodness.
touches my heart. It really does.
Well, and that's what a ripple effect there. If you don't think, for anyone listening, if you're thinking, it's just a little thing, I mean, you just shared a story that somebody is writing, was motivated to write a book to share with others and benefit the lives of others because of what you're doing. Gosh, what a fantastic
Isn't that
testimonial.
amazing? Yep.
That's
And
awesome.
Kathleen's now writing her second book, and she sent me a first draft before she sent it off to an editor, I guess. And so she has such a unique writing style. Very often she writes a sentence with one or two words, and I just say, Kathleen, just keep it up. I can't believe how powerful that is. Who writes a book where sentences frequently have one or two words, And so It's just stellar. I'm just so happy. So that is one story. And the next one comes from a gentleman in Canada, Derek Schellenberg, and I hope I said that right. If I didn't, he'll correct me. He's a digital literacy consultant in Ontario, Canada. And I asked him, I said, Derek, can you tell me some of the things about why Book Camp PD is important to you, how you're learning with others? And he said, Book Camp PD is helpful in growing his personal learning network across multiple countries because it is global, subject areas and panels. It helps him stay current with regard to teaching practice and pedagogy, innovations that are occurring, and best practices. It helped him with regards to accessing resources because there's so many people sharing those resources, whether they're images, websites, experts, videos, and especially books related to education. It helps with regards to enabling teachers to engage in independent professional inquiry in the areas that interest them the most. He talks about how it's positive and inspirational and perfectly suited to teachers to have a morale boost, which is so important before the work week begins because it happens on that Sunday night. The last two things he mentions are that the texts discussed are voted on, as I just explained, by the participants. It gives an opportunity for leadership for people who want to, as Kathleen did, share their blog in the guest blog, or as Derek does in being a guest moderator. And the last thing is that you're constantly taking feedback and you're making the process meaningful because you learn and you adapt from what other people are saying in the chat and how it fits into the schema and the work environment that you're in. So those are the things that he shared.
Awesome. And I love how you said too, it's global. Where was he from again?
Ontario, Canada. Yes.
Canada. I mean, so I'm in Southern California. You're on the other side of the country, and he's to the north. So, I mean, fantastic.
Yeah. Tosh I'm just going to say Tosh. I don't want to mispronounce it. I would feel so silly. When we very first started the chat, she was inspired and she created this graphic. And the graphic breaks down each one of the letters in Book Camp. And the B stands for brilliant. And then I'm just going to read to the other ones. O, observations. O, online. K, knowledgeable moderators. Candid conversations and connecting. Authors join in. M, many perspectives. The PLN growing. The personalized learning for you. And difference making. But that really touched me that Tosh felt so strongly about just participating in a chat that she sits down, breaks it all down, creates a graphic about the hashtag and the chat. It just really touched my heart when she did that.
Awesome. That's great. And did you have one more, I believe?
I do. I do.
Awesome.
I had a tweet that went out, and it said that at times in our lives, a pusher, and I put that in quotes, I don't really mean someone behind you pushing you. A pusher has decades of experience that we've not yet taken part in. The pusher can suggest, encourage, and open your mind to new ideas and be the guide on the side while you create the inspiration necessary to jump. And what Bridget said was that I would consider you one of my pushers. Thanks for the message this morning. And she said that she thought Book Camp PD affected her in many ways. One of the first chats she ever joined into that was a nationwide one and out of the realm of her district. Because that's a good point. A lot of times people have many experiences within their own district, but they don't have this nationwide experience that Book Camp PD or any Twitter chat can give. And she talks about how she was able to experience different perspectives on topics, which definitely made her a better educator. And she liked having social media interaction with me, because then she sought out my advice in the summer about administrative interviews, since I interviewed, hundreds and hundreds of people during those 26 years of being a principal. And then she goes on and talks about the biggest impact was when you posted a quote about gratitude. And she took that quote, she introduced it to her students in a morning meeting, and it began a gratitude movement in her class that's now continued with a new class that she has. And it also led me on a personal journey of gratitude that has changed my life.
Wow. So, gosh, I'm like jotting some notes down on the side as you're talking there, that four different people that you've never met, correct?
Right. Never met any of them.
Never met any of them face to face, yet you have had a profound impact on their lives. What I like about the whole, the concept of the Book Camp PE is because there's a lot of really good chats out there, Twitter chats out there.
Absolutely. Stellar ones.
Just really good ones. Almost, you could do one every day of the week and multiple ones if you wanted to. But what I like about the Book Camp, that you're just the behind it is, it is bringing people to literature, to books that they wouldn't necessarily pick up or even be aware of. And just seeing, like, when the voting would come out and the choices, it's like, ooh, that looks good. Or if you pop in, even if somebody doesn't participate, because I have sometimes watched but not participated in the chats, and just seeing if people are talking about and like, oh my gosh, this really resonated with me, this part about this, it can inspire me or anyone else who is watching. Wow, this may be something that I need to pick up, because the great thing about educational publishing is, whereas 10, 20 years ago, unless you were with a big publisher, you weren't going to get a book published.
Right.
It just wasn't going to happen. But now with from Dave Burgess Consulting and EduMatch Publishing, who I published with, and people are self-publishing books. There's so many educators who have great ideas and are putting it pen to paper, digital ink on digital paper, and are putting it out there. But because there's so many, sometimes it's almost like, oh my gosh, there's so many, I don't even know where to start. You are giving educators a place to start.
That's a very good point. And when the books come up for a survey, all of those books that are mentioned, normally there's about 36, 40 of them on the list. Those all come from recommendations from individuals through the website. And so those aren't books that I, as the moderator of it, go and say, oh, here, let's vote on these, because then that would reflect my schema and my interests. I don't want that. We need to have books that focus on what other people find interesting, what they want to learn more about. But you're right in that there's such a wide gamut in those 40 books that just going through that list and seeing your book along with other books, that's a whole learning experience in and of itself. I think about principals or curriculum coordinators who are trying to decide what book should we do for our book study? What matches what would work with this school? Now, of course, I wish they'd have the teachers vote on that. That doesn't always happen. But
Yeah.
it gives them a whole list of books that are current today and what is going that were recommended by other educators, and so it's a really strong, powerful thing that those who participate get to make decisions in.
Yeah. Well, and you're centralizing, you're focusing the focus. I mean, that wasn't really well said, but rather than like a random topic or something that somebody may not necessarily have knowledge of or experience with, if it's a book and you're talking about specific chapter, for example, everybody has that in front of them. They all have the opportunity to read it, and they can all share how it resonates with him or her. It brings everyone together. And like I said, I've personally been able to experience this, and it's just, I love what you're doing, and I want to thank you what you're doing. And I know those 4 people who you just shared their stories, they thank you. So
no, that's wonderful. Yeah. All of us learning together. That is what is so important. When I started out in education all those years ago, you talked about maybe 20 years ago, it was hard to have a book published. Well, when I began, there weren't books. There were only the textbooks that were written by scholars from universities. There weren't these kind of books that I could go and grab. And I remember those coming about and being so excited about them. But then I didn't have someone to talk to about that. Wasn't how it worked many, many years ago. So that's how all of this is coming to be, I think.
It's the beauty of things like Twitter or Voxer and things like that, where not only can somebody like me, just a regular guy in Southern California who's got some stories to share, put it out there, but then through Book Camp PD or Voxer chats or Twitter chats, being able to share with other people and hear them share back. So it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So, and normally we would close now, but we're going to introduce something new.
Oh, new is good. Wonderful.
New is good. So for anyone who's listened to previous episodes, and we're going to start it with you, Meredith, because you're the one who gave me this idea. You sent me a little link of a different podcast interview. We're going to do a little rapid fire here, Meredith.
Okay, so, I'm ready.
I've got 7 questions here. They have nothing to do with education. It's just random, like rapid fire to let anyone know who is Meredith and what are some things that they can learn about Meredith. So Meredith, mountains or beach?
Oh, beach, water.
Gotta be. You're in Southern Florida. Favorite TV show or Netflix show?
Oh, I'm watching the Vikings right now, but it's scary. But I'm going to say it because that's what I'm watching. Vikings.
Awesome. What are you currently listening to on Spotify or Pandora or Apple Music, or what are you listening to right now? What's the last artist you listened to?
Oh, it would have been something on a variety of artists when I was out walking, because I walk 3-4 miles every day. And so it would have been a variety of tunes to get me walking faster.
Awesome. Favorite Starbucks drink?
I don't drink coffee. I've never touched it.
Wow, never touched coffee. All right. Favorite salty snack?
Oh, pretzels. Yes, pretzels.
Favorite sweet snack?
I'm trying to get rid of them, but they're the little pumpkins that you get at Halloween time from Brock's Candies. Oh my gosh, I'm so hooked on them. Teachers used to bring me bags of them just to say, Meredith, we appreciate you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And last, a very appropriate final question. What are you currently reading?
I am currently reading Innovate Inside the Box by George Couros, because it is our focus book this in February.
That's fantastic. That is one of the ones that is on my to-read list. And once I get in, I would love to chat with George as well. I'm going to reach out to him. So George, if you're listening, probably not, but if you are, this is an open invitation right now. I'd love to have you on as a guest. So Well, Meredith, again, first of all, thank you for the idea for rapid fire. That
I
was
love
fun.
that. That was fun. That was quick.
That was
And I
fun.
didn't know what was coming.
And that's what's fun about it. That's exactly. And for anyone who is listening and is like, wow, I want to get connected. How can they connect with you? You mentioned we got the hashtag Bootcamp PD, but you mentioned a website. How can they get in touch with the website or you?
Okay. The website is bootcamppd.com, and I encourage people to go. All of the books, I think there have been about 60 some now, they are all right there in a tab for you to look at and that we have ever highlighted and with resources. So please go to bootcamppd.com. In order to contact me, that is bootcamppd. Oh boy, now I got to go look at it. I don't want to say it wrong. Just one.
On Twitter, you mean?
Well, on Twitter, it is MJ Johnson 1216, and that is that. But I was trying. It's right here. Okay. It is bootcamppd and the number 2 at gmail.com. That's the email address. Bootcamppd and the numeral 2 at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Well, again, I cannot encourage people enough. Check it out. Like you said, you're reading Innovators Innovate Inside the Box by George Couros right now. There's some good books that you have done and a bunch of ones that you have turned me on to as far as, that's one that I've put on my list. So that's everyone, and I just, again, you're doing this because you're contributing to the educational landscape, just because you believe in the power of sharing, which is something I am hugely passionate about. So one final time, thank you, Meredith.
Yeah, and I would like to thank you very much for selecting me for this interview. But I also want to share my last thought is that all of those who spend time on Twitter each and every day, maybe you aren't tweeting yet, maybe you're hugely involved in chats, whatever role you're playing by being involved in Twitter, I thank you. I appreciate you. All that you are doing for children every day is such a gift. And please know that I read your tweets and you're very, very important.
Awesome. We are better together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Better together indeed. Well, again, Meredith, thank you so much. And everyone listening, thank you so much. Totally appreciate it. We wouldn't be doing a podcast if nobody was. Well, actually, I may still do the podcast if no one's listening because I get something out of it each time. So even if no one listens, but it's always nicer when people do listen. So thanks for listening, folks. If you haven't already done so, remember you can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher: Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, or you can get it on the podcast page at brentcoley.com. If you're interested in, again, reading about some of the stories that I've shared in my book, Stories of Edu Influence, you can go to storiesofeduinfluence.com, or you can go to brentcoley.com, or you can just go to Amazon and search Edu Influence. All right. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Meredith, thank you for sharing your stories. And until next time, have a good one.